Welcome to Green and Glamorous. Today I'll show you how to make no-kneaded bread, and so I am making actually two batch because each one I have 3 cups of flour. That's all-purpose white flour. If you have a bread flour, that would be a little better, but all-purpose white flour would be fine. So I have each bowl. I have two separately put in a bowl, 3 cups, because I'm making a 2 roll. So this will give an actually reasonable size of a roll that would be good enough. And I'm going to put some seeds in it to make it flavorful. So I'll put in it 2 different seeds. So I'll come to that point when I will show you. So next step that I will add some salt, and then I will show you. I mixed 1 teaspoon of each 3 cups. If you want salt, so if you want a little more, you could use a little more. It's based on your taste. I would not put in any specific recipe for how much salt you need to use, but I would say try 1 teaspoon. The next time, if you need to make a little more or less, you can adjust that. So after putting salt, I actually gave it in a very nice mix, so that all the salt is evenly in the flour mixer. And so the next step, I will use add yeast before I add the water to create the dough. So for yeast, you could buy this is a common bread active dry yeast, and you could find this pouch. Usually this pouch could be costing about $2. Based on now pandemic situation, might be more or less, but if you buy it in a small container, maybe $10, you buy it in a large amount. So if you're going to make bread more often, you think, so buy the small container. It would be much cheaper. So usually I will put 1 teaspoon of yeast into the flour and mix it. And you could directly put this. It's a kind of like a granular shape. So you could actually, if you could see it, so granular shape. So you could actually put in you sprinkle it and then mix it with this tool. So, but what I do is that is a little differently, which is just, I think is better. So I take in a little bit of water. You could use a cups or anything. You make the water lukewarm, or you could heat it up and wait until it's not too hot, and you add a half teaspoon of sugar, teaspoon of sugar in it, and so you stir that, and you put the yeast directly into the water, stir it, and wait for 5 minutes. The reason is that once you put in this warm water, it's really activate this yeast, and with the sugar, it will quickly expand the yeast, and large amount of yeast you will have to add to the flour. So you kind of like giving up this boost to the yeast. So this is I will do. So I will take 1 spoon about and put it, and what I'll do a little bit that, and you will see in 5 minutes it will change the way it look. If you put it in a actually clear glass, you will see that they actually bubbles up and create. So this is kind of got lump, so I'll mix it then. So I will wait 5 minutes on this. Actually, I will be adding the seeds into this 2 bowls to separate. And as you see, the yeast is expanding, so we're waiting on that. And meanwhile, I can actually add the seeds and mix it for this stage. So what I done is that last time I cooked cumin seeds and cumin powder. It's really came good. So I'm going to make one batch for that. So I have 1 teaspoon of the powder, and then I will add 1 teaspoon of actual seeds in it. And for this one, I'm going to try something new. So always you should try something. Don't just follow the recipe. Try, see how is that. So I'm going to try black seeds, which is the black seed is a very uncommon in Western culture and for cooking. But this is South Asian cooking is very very important. They use some naan, they use it, and also Egypt and this area, that Mediterranean area, for example Morocco probably, and some eastern part of Africa are familiar with black cumin, which is they think that it has a very medicinal value to it. So they in there it's pretty expensive to have black seeds. So I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of black seed in it, maybe a little more that. So I'll show you that how that tastes. So it would be something to experiment. So close capture of this the yeast, as you see that they sort of like a rising, sort of look like a cappuccino foam. So that means that they're expanding. So this is good. So soon I will add this to flour and mix it, then I will add it water. So now I'm showing how I mixed the water and yeast. So the dough. So you see that this would be a little bit of a fluffy and not too loose. And if you roll it, you'll kind of like loosely will roll out. So what I done is that I added that yeast that I had. So which is I had about a half cup of water in it. So that half cup water, and I added lukewarm water, another half cup. Total 2 cups of water. You need about 3 cups of flour. And if you need more or less, you will know based on how dry your flour is and how feely you actually filled it. So but overall that you need to have this kind of like a floppy losing the way it shows it will have. So the purpose of putting this warm lukewarm water, that for yeast to grow you need a little bit of a warm temperature. If you put in a cold water, it's going to shock this yeast and it's not good because we want them to continue to grow. So after you mixing this one, you'll put in a like a towel, wet towel, to keep some moisture so it's not getting dry, and you put in a place that is reasonably warm. For example, that if in a cold day, even hot summer day, you could put probably anywhere, but don't put in somewhere that you have a cold air conditioned vent is coming in, because keep it a little bit away. And if in the winter time, don't put it next to the window or somewhere is that really cold. So put in somewhere that you have a reasonably good room temperature. So that, because you want to have that little bit of warm temperature for overnight to the yeast to grow. So usually best the day you will cook, so the previous day, for example this evening I'm mixing this, so I'll cook the bread tomorrow evening. So in that way the overnight and the whole day you leave it to have the yeast to work on this fermentation. So I have 2 cast iron a Dutch oven for making this 2 loaf of bread. And what I done is that I put it this entire Dutch oven, heavy cast iron oven, as you see, into the oven, and I preheat it. And I will put that at 450 degree into the oven. And this is the best thing to cook kneaded bread, or is very helpful to do a cast iron for various type of cooking. So everyone should have at least one Dutch oven like this, standard size one, and it's not cost a lot, about $50, and this is must have a item that you should have. Other one, this is a little different type. It has a little bit of a, on the top you have a pan kind of thing, so you could use that as a sauteing. So it's a two different things it works at, and that's I also have as an option. So I have this too. Yeah. So in case you don't have the cast iron pan, but you would like to make this bread, just looking at this recipe and try it. If you have a baking sheet and you put in a parchment paper on it, and then you could put the bread dough in a long way, sort of like making a long roll, a few of them, you could do it. You would not be able to make a round loaf in this. And the reason that you would have the cast iron pot, because the first part of the time that baking, you will keep it covered, so that this cover actually holds the moisture into the pot, so bread doesn't get dry. So next step, you would need to put on the pot that is the cornmeal on the bottom, so that when you put the dough in it, it would not stick to the bottom of the oven. So what you do is that you sprinkle this way to give it a little bit the most bottom surface that where it will be touching. So in case that you don't have a cornmeal, if you have a flour, that will also work. But cornmeal gives you a much better result. So this is done. So next step I'll show you, I'll do the other one. Next step I'll show you how to put the dough into the oven and put it into actual oven. So Dutch oven and actual oven. So now as you can see that last night when I mixed the yeast and let it sit to fermentate, so this dough is kind of fluffy and raised. It actually raised more. When I removed the towel, it got shaked, so it's gone a little bit down. So first thing I'll do is that I will try to release the side to loosen up the stick side of it, or get a little dry. And as we circle around, go a little bit deeper. So I know that when I will shift this into this Dutch oven, it will be pretty cleanly will transfer, and it will keep it most of the round shape. And if it's a little bit differently, we can reshape it on the pot. So earlier I showed you, I have a cornmeal in the bottom of it, so I will kind of slowly drop this into Dutch oven and kind of take out as much dough I can. And then when I've done that, if it's not perfectly round shape, I could kind of force the finger and sort of bring it that desirable shape. And this is was the black seed, black cumin seed that I added. As you can see, that is still, the seeds are very visible. I think this is going to be very interestingly flavorful bread. So now I will cover this oven, and as I mentioned that these were preheated. The purpose is that you don't want it to put in a cold in an oven, because you want it to have that in a warm heat pot. So I close that, making sure that this is covered. So we're going to bake this for about 25 minutes covered, and then I will open that The purpose of covering is to retain the moisture so bread doesn't get dry, and later on I'll bake it taking that off. The purposes would be to build that crust on the top. So now after half an hour I opened the top lid and bake. So the reason I done about half an hour because I have two next to each other, so I might need a little longer in the oven than the recipe time usually would call for. So I will bake this uncovered for another 30 minutes or so, and I will be able to see the top crust when it's almost cooked. So then I can decide on if I need any extra few minutes to bake or not. So after a little over half an hour, I pulled out from the oven. So here is the crust of bread. As you can see, lightly browned, and looks perfect. So now I'm cooling down. So I had to go a little over half an hour because there were two breads in the same oven, so I needed a little more. But you would be able to see through opening the oven how the color of this crust on the top looks like, and you're able to control the temperature or how long you need to bake that. So this is now cooling down. You never should try to cut bread after pulling out from the oven until that 30 minutes passed, because even the surface might be reasonably cool to touch, but inside are trapped lots of moisture, and if you try to cut very hot bread, just to pull out from the oven, once you sliced in, you might get a burn from the steam that will release from the center of the bread. So just be cautious. So hopefully you will try this no-knead bread, and it's easy to make, and you could use that as a main starch of your meal with soup or any other kind of meat dish or vegetable dish, or you could have a use for breakfast, and all a possible way you can use bread. So, and try to make it if you haven't done that yet. Very easy to make, and so hopefully this was helpful information for you. If you haven't subscribed the channel, kindly subscribe. That will be helpful for me to expand my channel to public. So thank you for your subscription.